The security situation in Sweden's neighborhood has worsened significantly. And as a result, Sweden is strengthening its defense capabilities and relations with close cooperative allies and partners. Let's talk about the importance of science, research and innovation as a fundament for Swedish defense capabilities. I'd like to extend my warm welcome to Defense Minister Paul Jonson from the Swedish government. A warm welcome.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
I bet you've had some busy months with Sweden becoming a full member of NATO only 2 weeks ago. How has it been?
It's been remarkably intensive, but also very rewarding. For a year and a half now, we've been preparing to become full-fledged members of the alliance, and now last Thursday it happens. And it's good because it's going to make Sweden safer, and it's also going to make NATO stronger. It's also going to open up new avenues for us to cooperate in regards to science technology, which is, of course, NATO has been working on for decades, but as full-fledged members of the alliance, we are better equipped as an ally also to contribute to that work of keeping the technology edge within the alliance. So it's going to affect us.
Great, and that's the focus of our conversation. We'll have a forward-looking focus. As a background, can you give our viewers some info on the government's initiative on defense innovation?
Sure. There are a few drivers for this initiative. One is that the military problem that we're exposed to now is quite different how it was like 10 years ago, because 10 years ago we were very much engaged in Afghanistan, for example. And that's one kind of military problem you have there. But now we're exposed to challenges to our territorial integrity and to our collective defense. And therefore the requirements on military technology is higher because we have a new and more demanding military problem we have to solve. The other one, of course, was what also a driver for us was the exponential growth in on the technology sector that we have to adapt and apply into the military sector, which was also a very important driver for us to launch this defense innovation initiative that we recently presented in Sweden. And this is all about spinning in civilian technology for military applications and to ensure that we don't have stovepipes between the civilian sector and the military sector. We've been very much inspired, of course, what the United States has been doing on this. They've been launching a defense innovation initiative like a decade ago. I had the privilege of going to Silicon Valley to meet that defense innovation unit, see how they are working. We've been traveling around I've been to the Netherlands, I've been to many other places around Europe where they've been working on assuring that how we can have a stronger technological edge with the intent purpose to continue living in peace.
So in practice, what is this initiative? Is it a way of working forward or?
Yeah. Well, it's both how we work and there's a specific program to it as well. What we've been doing is how we've been working, and I've been sharing these meetings myself, and I've been having representatives of government agencies such as the Swedish Armed Forces, the Swedish Defense Research Agency, the FMV, our procurement agency, but also our space agency. We have also Vinnova, of course, who's been represented there.
Swedish Innovation Agency.
Thank you. Yeah, and academia has been there, and business has been there as well. Working in triple helix, I think is something we have a past legacy and experience of doing in Sweden. It's something I want to promote more, having this close cooperation. After that, so we did that for 6 months, and for me, innovation is about being agile and being quick. So we were able, within 6 months, to have these meetings, to travel around the different places in Europe, in Sweden as well, I should say, and across the Atlantic. And then we launched this military innovation program, and this is about Vinnova, together with the armed forces, establishing a program which we allocate money for quick innovation as well. So, and they're going to be launching this kind of competitions and so forth.
So it's extensive.
Yeah.
So how can the government's investments in defense innovation benefit the development of the whole Swedish innovation system? Tell us more about that.
Sure.
How it will diffuse.
Sure, in a number of ways. And I mean, on all international scorecards, we score very well on innovation in Sweden. We're on the European scoreboard, on the international scoreboard. The basis for that is because we have a strong tradition in natural science, engineering, and also technology, and that's something we want to nurture. I think that's a great asset and a strength to us. The other aspect of it is, well, that we also have a vibrant defense industrial base in Sweden. There's no other country of 10 million who actually have the ability to produce and design submarines and fighter aircrafts and advanced artillery systems and so forth. So that's also an asset for us as well.
Well established and well developed, highly technological.
Exactly.
Exactly. Defense industry.
So for me, it's how do we transform innovative power into military power, and I think that that is the close interaction between our vibrant, strong civilian tech sector, our defense industry, and our government agencies. And I think this ecosystem and this collaboration is going to be very important. And I think this is going to be a two-way street, because when you expose these bright technologies on the civilian side to the military problem, they're going to find it that normally it's very demanding. You know, it's very high requirements. So I think that is also in a way that is going to be this win-win for the civilian side and the military side. And we of course have a tradition how we've been spinning out technologies from the defense sector, of course with the internet, the radar and so forth. What we're doing now is of course catching up. We who work in the military side on the civilian side to ensure that we can spin in the technology that is developing so quickly now, particularly in the private sector as well.
It's great to remind ourselves that the internet came out of American defense innovation projects.
If I could just mention one more driver who's been extremely important for this is the lessons we're drawing from the battlefield in Ukraine, which has been, if it's something that I think been giving the Ukrainians the edge, is their ability to innovate. And I've been there 3 times during the war, and I've been visiting various innovation hubs they've been having. And when there's war, you're exposed to a lot of problems, a lot of military problems that you need to solve. And normally an innovation cycle in the defense sector is at least 5 years. And when you have these big platforms, it can actually take up to 30 years. But
fighter aircraft or something.
For a fighter aircraft or a submarine. But the Ukrainians, what they're doing things in 2-3 months, which would take us at least 2-3 years. So there's a lot of things that we can be inspired by the Ukrainians. And I went to a company that produces drones in Ukraine, and they said that, well, normally every year we have 30 innovation projects or R&D projects a year. Now we have 30 a month. And one of the things that they've been doing also is they try a lot, and then they kill a lot of projects as well. So they're very agile, and that's inspiring for us as well, the lessons learned from that Ukraine is strong when it comes to innovation.
So what I hear you say is that the whole innovation system will benefit both from new technologies, cutting-edge technologies that are tested and have really high requirements, but also the way of working and the not modern way of agile working, speedy iterations and trying a lot and sometimes failing.
Absolutely.
So two things.
And the resources as well, because we're of course beefing up resources when it comes to military R&D as well, and the launch of this military innovation program. So fresh money and capital is coming also from the military side. I of course had the pleasure of visiting Silicon Valley, and the whole thing how Silicon Valley started was of course from the defense sector and Stanford University. So now I think very close interaction, but the roles are a bit changing, because now it's the civilian side who's the leading, but now also the military side is more engaged into it, because we have different and new, more challenging military problems that we're exposed to.
So close cooperation within research as well.
Absolutely.
Tell us more about how groundbreaking new technologies, how they can play in future security efforts. You mentioned Ukraine, but what are the technologies perhaps that our viewers are interested in learning more about?
Well, if I would put out 3 technologies I think are very important for us, is of course AI, which I think is playing a tremendously important role in the battlefield in Ukraine, because it provides you with guidance for making decisions, and particularly for planning. I think it's been really indispensable. Space-based assets has been very, very important during this war as well, both for identification and targeting, but also because the battlefield in Ukraine is very much transparent. The Ukrainians, I think, have a good understanding of where the Russian assets and capabilities are. So, but space-based assets, and of course for the resilience of communication, for Starlink, and I think it's been tremendously important. It's something we also have to adapt to for our forthcoming defense bill. A third point I want to point out as extra important for the military field is autonomous systems. And of course here we're seeing, of course, how important drones are, and we are seeing it, of course, in the air in eastern Ukraine and all over Ukraine. We see it also under the water and on the surface as well. So
autonomous vehicles of different kinds.
Absolutely. I think those areas, space, autonomous vehicles, and AI are going to be tremendously important also for the future into the defense sphere as well. Of course, the former chief of staff in the U.S. Armed Forces, General Milley, said that maybe a third of the U.S. Armed Forces in a decade is going to be autonomous. So we are really here at the pivotal time also for adopting autonomous systems into the defense side.
Both for precision and for saving lives.
Yeah, of course. I mean that's great merits with drones. Of course, is that you don't have to expose your soldiers to the military risk. Instead, you use the drones. And I think one of the things also you need to be cognizant about is how you protect yourself from incoming drones. And we have strong technologies in Sweden, not so much just on drones, but also on, for example, electronic warfare and things like that.
Can we return to what you mentioned about the war in Ukraine being transparent? Tell us a bit more what that means, because I think it also is an analogy also to the innovation system, that everybody knows everything. So then who wins this?
This war is, to my mind, is a combination between World War I. You see in the trenches, and you see in the war of attrition. This is a war of warehouses because you need a lot of ammunition. You need air defense systems. You need mass on that. But it's so that's why
old style.
Old style in one way, but the Third World War in another, and that's because how crucial these autonomous systems has been. The drones. We've seen drones before in Afghanistan. We've seen them in Sudan. We've seen them in Syria and so forth, but not on this scale and volume. And the development is going extremely quickly in that regard. As I said, space-based assets has been very important for targeting. Long-range strike capabilities. You see these cruise missiles going all over the place. I think has been very, very important as well. So it's a combination between a very traditional old-style warfare, but also a future scenario as well, which we have to prepare for.
So within these areas that you just mentioned, AI for decision making, autonomous systems of different kinds, and also space technology, how well equipped is Sweden, and how do we ensure that Sweden is at the forefront of innovation within these areas?
Sure. One of the things is, of course, to shorten the time between you identify a target and you can actually attack it as well. So that chain of command is something that's being important. On balance, we have a good ecosystem in Sweden when it comes to innovation, and I think all international scoreboards indicate that we do score very well in an international comparative perspective to it, because we have this strong basis of vibrant civilian sector, and we are good on fintech, and we have the home country of Spotify, Klarna, Skype, and so forth. So, then we have a strong defense industry, and we are early adopters in our mind, to my mind. So I think we have all the preconditions. It's just that we haven't been focusing so much on it lately, and that's what my initiative for defense innovation is all about, merging all that talent that we have in Sweden. And of course now we also, as entering NATO as an ally, we're going to be able to cooperate more. I know you have a special session on NATO's Diana, which is a defense innovation initiative within NATO, and you have also something called NATO Investment Fund. And as allies, we are going to better access to collaborate around technology as well. And I want Sweden to be geared up to handle that challenge.
How can the need for more defense innovation also create opportunities for faster progress in areas such as climate, digital integrity, democracy, the great problem with fake news? What's your opinion here?
Different in different sectors, but of course in fake news is something that we are quite absorbed as well On the defense and security side, we have a special government agency now, the Government Agency for Psychological Defense, that's very much focusing both on identifying but also analyzing fake news. So that's a sector that also goes two-way. I think the whole technology side, there is, I know companies who have 90% civilian applications and 10% military sides, but they say from working in the military sector, they spin in a lot of experiences there, because we were alluding to and talking before that the requirements in the defense sector is quite challenging. So if you are up to those challenges, you will have access into the civilian side. So I think there's many ways that this is going to be a win-win situation for the civilian side and the military side. The message is, of course, that the military side now is more engaged into adopting and absorbing the civilian progress, and I think that the interaction is going to make us all stronger.
And what would you say is the most critical success factor for finding ways to work and collaborate in new and innovative ways? What's crucial here?
Sure. I think we in the defense sector has a lot to learn, because going into the defense sector, that's as we said, we have these acquisition programs who are very long. They can be high entry or barrier to getting into them. There's a lot of
hard for small companies.
Hard for small countries. Lot of secrecy and so forth. And we on the defense sector have to be more open and transparent. Also, I made the point of going to Kista a few weeks ago to meet a lot of folks in the civilian side to say, we need your help. You know, we are exposed to a military problem here, and we can all join forces to help support Ukraine, but also protect Sweden, and to get those people into also to working on the military side, I think going to be very helpful.
Kista is a science tech park north of Stockholm.
Our Silicon Valley, maybe. But
very briefly, how much is that a mindset shift in the military industry?
Quite a big journey for us as well. I always say that we can have all the strategies we want in this area, but we all know that culture eats strategy for breakfast, and that we also have to have a different mindset, I think, in at least two ways. One is that we have to be prepared to fail as well, because when you're going to be doing innovation, you're going to be taking risks, and that's necessary as well. So being having an openness also for failure as a part of the process. The other one is the lead times as well that we've been talking about as well. Before we had very little money, but we felt that we had lots of time. But today we don't have as much time because the security environment has deteriorated so much. So there's a sense of urgency into our systems, which we are adapting to as well. So I think those are some of the things that as far as culture goes. If I could just mention one thing, I went both to DARPA, which is of course the US long-term R&D for the military side as well, and they're saying technology now is so disruptive and is moving so fast. So our ability to look into the crystal ball and say what's going to happen in 10 or 15 years is going to be much more difficult because it's changing so much. But one thing is sure as well: if you want to be innovative, you have to be quick and you have to be agile. And they had this favorite new expression of mine, and one way to make sure is that things happen is also to aggressively attack bureaucracy, because that is something that can kill creativity and innovation as well.
Slow things down.
Slow things down as well. And right now we want to act quick, not slow.
You mentioned the NATO's Diana program, the Defense Innovation Accelerator for the North Atlantic, on shaping sustainable innovation systems. And tomorrow we will have a special session on that, like you mentioned. It's tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central European Time. You'll all have the opportunity to learn more. Is there any question, Minister Jonson, that you would like to include in that panel?
Well, I think it's send the question to my folks on the defense side if we're up to the challenge or working with a vibrant sector, because it means that we're going to be operating out of our comfort zone, and that's good. But it's also challenging my own sector in being open, being transparent, and being able also to take risks. I think that is one of the things of the key for it. What I do notice now, which I'm very encouraged about, is that there's much more interest now in working with the defense sector than it was a few years ago. And I think that the war in Ukraine has changed that paradigm quite well, because they understand also how important defense technology is for keeping countries safe. And I think that the moral high ground and that paradigm has changed after the war in Ukraine.
I never met a minister before who said that he or she prefers to work outside of their regular comfort zone. So I think that's a great tribute to your attitude and mindset.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Minister Paul Jonson, for joining. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.